It is the most excruciating bit of footage that I have ever seen, and I, for the life of me, cannot see how these police officers were ever fit to wear the uniform, will ever be fit to wear the uniform again, and frankly, they need to be prosecuted. They need to be prosecuted for this. It is beyond anything that you have ever seen before in your life. Now, look, like I said, we're taking our time with certain aspects of this footage for understandable reasons, and I'm sure you will appreciate that. We're going to come to it shortly. I just want to summarise the news of the day in relation to Henry Nowak. And today, that deranged, knife-wielding Sikh killer was sentenced to 21 years in prison. I think the police officers involved should also be prosecuted. And like I said, they have now released that body cam footage. This monster, Vikram Digwa, will rot in jail, but not for long enough. And by the way, in this body cam footage, he never tells police that Henry has been stabbed. There was even potentially the slimmest chance that this guy could still have saved Henry's life by telling police, and he didn't do it. The defence urged the judge to give Digwa time off from his prison sentence for the following reason. His age, he was just 23 years old at the time of the murder, which legally requires a lower starting assessment for sentences. Previous good character. He'd had 0 prior criminal convictions or warnings on his record. Lack of premeditation. Well, the judge stated that he was sure that Digwa intended to kill in the moments before the stabbing. The initial confrontation itself was not planned in advance. Look, I think all of that's a disgrace, and I'm sure you will as well. 23 years old isn't young. It doesn't matter whether or not he'd been caught committing any crimes before killing Henry, who was a young lad with his whole life ahead of him. Now, Henry's father spoke outside court today. Listen to what happened in Henry's final moments.
Henry had been stabbed multiple times, and as his chest filled with blood, he tried to escape. He was chased, abused, and filmed by Vikram Digwa and others. With his final words, he told officers that he could not breathe. He told them he had been stabbed. In fact, Henry told officers that he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from one officer was, "I don't think you have, mate." Henry was pulled across the gravel, his hands forced behind his back, and he was placed in handcuffs. Instead of being treated as a dying victim, police formally arrested Henry for assault and read him his rights. That was the last thing he heard.
Henry Nowak told police officers that he couldn't breathe 9 times. He told them he'd been stabbed 4 times. As if this wasn't horrific enough, listen to the way the same police officers treated Henry's murderer, who had lied and said that Henry was a racist.
He was not handcuffed when arrested. He was not handcuffed when transported to the police station. As far as we understand, he was never handcuffed at all. And as Vikram Digwa himself told the court, whilst under arrest for Henry's murder, police even took him to the kitchen so he could choose his food.
That makes me sick. And when you see this body cam footage in a couple of minutes' time, you will see that this is the worst example of woke 2-tier policing that you have ever seen in your life. And to top it all off, it looks like the police are trying to cover their own tracks.
Police have said they were misled by the murderer and that the scene when they arrived was complex. Unfortunately, it seems to us the truth is much simpler. The police were told by our son himself and by a member of the public who called 999 that they heard someone shout that they had been stabbed. But the police did not believe them. We believe the officers involved remain on duty, although we understand some may have since resigned. One was allowed to leave the force before she had given an account to the Independent Office of Police Conduct of what happened that evening.
The whole thing is an utter disgrace. And look, where was Keir Starmer throughout all of this? You know, he posted on social media about Eid celebration. He posted loads of times about Arsenal winning the Premier League. Today, he posted about social housing, and we all know that's going to, don't we? And it was only just before 7 p.m. today that Keir Starmer finally piped up about Henry Nowak. He had to be dragged, kicking and screaming, into that. Anyone with half a brain or a heart would have said something sooner. Henry's father said that he wants his son's death to be used to tackle the scourge of knife crime. We need to end the ability for some people to carry knives for religious reasons. How many people are walking around with these?
Guys, I've asked you to leave with your son one of the knives, okay? You're in a public place and you aren't. Hey, I do not mind you being here. This is not racist. You're carrying knives in public park, okay? Ask to remove. I'm from the police.
I just want to say a word for Henry's family. The grace and poise that they displayed today on the steps of that court was amazing. There is no way on earth that if my son had endured something like that I would have been able to conduct myself with such dignity. And I think it's right that we show you Henry's father's words to his late beloved son today.
Finally, I want Henry to know, wherever he is, we are so proud of him and we love him beyond words. Thank you.